ever been walking through the Navy Exchange and wonder why all the Naval Pride and Heritage gear is horrifically ugly and you wouldn't actually wear it? Have you ever wanted some really cool gear and you just don't know where to go? Well, I got you, fam. Go to dgutspodcast.com immediately. Get yourself some Naval Pride and Heritage gear you'll actually wear in public. We're working on new designs all the time, open to ideas. We're trying to create a brand that lets you display that pride, but doesn't make you cringe. Also, if you're willing to and you're able to, please go to patreon.com/dgutspodcast, pick one of the 5 tiers and become a patron today. What's up, everybody? Let's spin some yarn. All right. Working through some technical difficulties. Finally got the stupid thing to do what I wanted to do. This is the next MCPON call to action review episodes, or spin the yarns, I guess. But the professional character development one is the one I'm going to be going over this time around. I don't think the other one's out yet. I haven't seen it on social media or anything, but I'm sure I will when it pops, and then I'll do that one. And then next week, you guys will see the first Foundations one with little old me doing that memory episode I promised. Got the outline done finally, but that one I will probably re-recording it today, but it'll come out next week, so I'm going to be in a class. It's going to monopolize all my time, so here we go. So this one's the second little memo that was released. It's about professional character development. Last one was warfighting competence. This one is... I have many of the same criticisms. I mean, not same, but like same vibe, I guess, of it just being like a whole bunch of like hopium. So it starts with every sailor deserves a chief petty officer who is fully invested in their professional and character development. And I agree with that statement. However, it then goes into a paragraph of like we hope that everything's going to be fine. And it relies on the idea that a chief petty officer is this complete, competent leader that is capable of effectively, professionally, and like developing professionalism and character. And it's like, when did you teach us that? Never. No one ever developed me that way. And there's like times along the way where I encountered good mentors and stuff, but like to say that like the mean level chief petty officer, when we're looking at the whole sample, right? Like right at the mean, you're trying to tell me just everyday Joe Schmo chief has these competencies? Like that's patently false. So we're setting everybody up to fail, really. Like we're setting the Chiefs up to fail by saddling them with this responsibility that they don't have the capability to administer, right? Like they're not even able to live up to this responsibility. It's the analogy I've used before of like putting somebody on watch when they're not qualified. It's like that's what you're doing. Like they're not qualified to do these things, but you're saddling them with this responsibility, having provided effectively zero preparation. Like I'm sure if I got into like a debate with MCPON or something, he would start pointing at like laying the keel in the Chiefs season and stuff, and even the Senior Enlisted Academy for some. But like the Senior Enlisted Academy, I'd agree with like providing some of that, but outside of that, like come on, like not really. Again, unless you luck your way into outstanding mentors. There are outliers out there, and if you find one of those people or even those messes where it's predominantly outliers, which it happens, that's what I found on Jimmy Carter. But yeah, it's like it's not. This isn't real. So it's like the paragraph goes into like, you know, hey, like do all these things you're not able to actually do, and then to accomplish this, here's the big plan. My goal is to ensure professional and character development is incorporated at multiple points throughout the sailor's career at the right time in the right manner. Okay, how? Like I should have named all these okay how, but I think I did that already. But like my goal, that's like, I hope it works, guys. Like, come on, man. Like this doesn't, you hope to get this done at multiple points throughout their career, right? Which, okay, so let's point at NLEC ELD and say this is planned at multiple points throughout a sailor's career, right? However, it's not mandatory, which means commands aren't going to do it because like there's so much, you're juggling flaming chainsaws, white knuckling your way through a career while redlining 100% of the time. There's a reason I have so many sleep issues, right? Like so many, what do they call them? Disorders. until it's mandatory, until it's like part of our life cycle, just like boot camp and A school, right? Like until it's mandatory, it's never going to happen. Like it's a nice to have. So the commands aren't going to do it until somebody forces their hand. So you can't use that as like, see, we're doing it. You can't make the colorful laying the keel, like life cycle timeline thing and say, look at all these things we do for leadership development and education, because you don't, right? Unless you have somebody that's an outlier going out of their way to get their people into these classes when the opportunity presents itself, which it very rarely does nowadays based on manning and retention and everything else. But like if you're on shore duty, and there's like enough people where you can let somebody get away to go do those things, that's what you generally see. Like when I was at my last command on shore duty, I sent all the CSs on the staff who didn't, like I was in a unique position at a Flagstaff where like they weren't cooking in a galley. They were just kind of existing. So I sent them to everything I could, like every school I could get them to, including the ELD stuff. And they loved it. So it's like, does the infrastructure exist? According to the homies at INLIC, yes. I talked to Toby and Steve and they said, yes, it's there. We have the capacity. We have like the infrastructure. Everything's there. It's just waiting for sailors to show up, and we haven't made it mandatory. So sailors aren't going to show up. That's just how that's going to work, especially now with the just horrific hellscape of manning and retention. So then I think I had some other notes, actually. I just want to make sure I'm hitting everything. Say I said who's actually teaching us these things, and then like define it, like which I don't even think they have the competency to do, but I don't think they've done either. So it's like, you need to tell me what that means. Like you can't just say it's like standards, maintaining the standards. Okay, you got to tell me what the standards are. You have to like break that down. Provide them in details. You can't tell me to maintain the standards. You need to give me a list of standards to maintain and exactly what's expected. Like I need to know, like, okay, where's the bar so that I can meet it? Like you can't expect people to just know what you want when you say professionalism and character. It's like, that's not you define that. What do you mean by that within the context of this organization, within my warfighting community, within my rating, within the chief's mess, within the wardroom, whatever? You gotta explain it, or it means nothing. All right, let's see. The goal wording I already hit on. Yeah, I'll hold my breath. Okay, so then we get into starting from the moment. Okay, let me read the bold part. So developing a good sailor starts with their chief. Sort of. I mean, I concur sort of. It's like chicken before the egg. It's like a loop, right? Like a logical, just like, what do they call it? I just read this in my textbook yesterday, but whatever. You're stuck in this loop of, I want a sailor to have a good chief, but I'm not doing the things that I need to make sure they have a good chief. So then most of the time that sailor gets a substandard chief. Again, they're not bad people, right? I feel like I need to qualify this because I don't want to poorly or lazily articulate this so that chiefs think I'm like bashing chiefs, because I'm not. I'm critical of the organization's commitment to developing you. Like they're not doing what they need to. We are not doing what we need to build this chief, this ideal that they're trying to communicate, and largely in my analysis failing to communicate in these documents because they're not providing enough detail. And granted, like I don't know why he decided to release a bunch of one-page memos with no detail, but like the reason these don't mean anything is because he didn't provide any detail. Like, I would have been happier with a 25-page instruction with enclosures where, I mean, he could have released these as like a starting point, but like, I don't know, like I think the priorities was a fine, like, hey, here's what's to come. And then that would have been better, like 90 days into office. Like he should have had that ready. It's not like he didn't know he was going to be MCPON, and he probably did, but like for whatever reason, I don't know. Anyway. So it starts with their chief, and then it says make sure they have the right sponsor, and right is bold and underlined. Okay, let's talk about sponsorship. So starting from the day they receive orders to the command, make sure they have the right sponsor. Like, what does that mean, right? Which we do have an instruction for that, and you can go look at it, and no one follows it. I mean, I've had multiple sponsors throughout my career that were people, it was like the guy I'm relieving. And like, so like on my last submarine, my sponsor was the guy I was relieving who, oh, by the way, checked out 5 days before I checked in. Some sponsor, huh? You know, like, and I was a senior chief. I'm a grown up. I know my way around. I know how to check into a command. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. But like, no one's following. And like, even as a career counselor on Submarine 2, right? I was a chief, and I wasn't the sponsor coordinator. I was the career counselor, but I obviously work very closely with the sponsorship coordinator, and they just gooned it up constantly. Nobody ever had the training, which I don't remember when that became mandatory. It might not have been back then, but the instruction has changed multiple times, and I don't know what it says right now. So, you know, maybe some of this is outdated, but like, you had to be like an E5 or above. You had to have like, I think like at least a year or two on board the command left. I think it was a year or 18 months or something. I don't know. There was an amount of time so that what I just described didn't happen to you. And then you had to have sponsorship training with, I think it's through Fleet and Family. And like, nobody ever had the training. So they're just like randomly assigning people that they just thought might fit, right? If you're getting a sponsor at all, right? Or you get assigned a sponsor and then they never get a hold of you, right? And no one follows up and no one tracks that. And it's just, what would be nice is if this was, and I think I have this in my notes, was like make this, yeah. So like, make sure they have the right sponsor. Cool. Make that a primary duty for an NC, not a collateral for a sailor who has 10,000 other things to do. Like, there's a lot of things, and I'm probably overly sensitive to this because submarines, right? Like, 'cause we're so small that like you just, and like LCS sailors will get it. Like, you just, I mean, really any small unit per like sailor will get this. It's like you get saddled with all these collateral duties because of the nature of the unit based on its size. It's like people just have to pick up things because we don't get the support that we need. Like you don't have all the support rates there. They did this to us when I was at CSA school. It's still there. I forget the name. They changed the name of the fort, but it used to be Fort Lee. And on that base, it's like they took just the A school off of TSC Great Lakes and just ripped it out and dropped it on an Army base, right? And then they hired like a retired YN1. Shout out to Julius. He's a good dude. But like, they hired a YN1 and some civilians, but that was it. Like, we didn't have any corpsmen. We didn't have any, like, I couldn't go talk to you have to drive 2 hours to the Tidewater area to like get Navy people. And it wasn't because it wasn't a true joint base. Like, the only Navy presence was us. And then there was a recruiting district in Richmond, right? Which was like 25 minutes away. But like, we didn't have any infrastructure or support. So like, I had to go through all this like, everybody had their medical records at home. Like, that's what we were doing. And so like, I went through this rigmarole of getting a full-time support corpsman from the NOSC to come help, because sailors were doing, like, the Army was doing overseas screening forms for the Army, and then the Navy, like, it just, none of it was translating. We didn't have the support that we needed. And that's true at a lot of small units everywhere, right? Like, especially submarines and some of the other smaller, ships and all that other stuff. And it's like, what's stopping us really from putting an NC2 on a destroyer or on a submarine? Like, you know how huge that would be on a submarine? Like, I would happily, because I have this thing about deleting CSs off submarines, not like entirely, but there's a couple billets you could just get rid of if officers would just go through the fucking chow line. Like, you could still eat in the wardroom, just eat like normal people without us having to set up like tablecloths and like plates and just all this stupid stuff, and having a CS dedicated to like waiting on them. It's ridiculous. It's such a waste of manning, and I guarantee they're still doing it right now, unless the division on the ship is so undermanned that they just can't, which happens. I went out to do an inspection on a submarine where they had 4 cooks, including the leading CS, and it's like the dude just didn't sleep and nobody could do anything. But they were still trying to serve the wardroom until I told them to stop. I was just like, I can free up a CS right now. Just go through the chow line, you know, like, it's so ridiculous that you even have to say that, and that we're even still doing things like this. Like, I understand like formal VIP events and stuff, but like, even an admiral at a carrier strike group, like, why? Like, you're a grown, you could have somebody go get your food, I guess, and you can eat in your cabin or whatever, or have a CS run it up to you. But like, the idea of still having wardrooms function in the way that they used to, it's just like, and I think carriers, they might have like FSAs serving a buffet or what, I don't know. It's pretty big. So it's like its own mess decks essentially, which is fine. But yeah, I like on submarines, it's absurd. And I could delete 2 CS billets off of a submarine immediately. And I'll happily fill one of those with an NC2 because then the command career counselor collateral duty goes away. And that is a big collateral duty. And I don't know how it's changed, but I know it's changed some, but it's still super demanding. You still have to do a ton of stuff. You're tracking, like on a submarine, you're responsible for 150 people's re-enlistments and seaway quotas, if that's still real, and like just SRB stuff and just all this stuff. In addition to your primary duty, it's nutsos. And if you explain that to like an NC whose primary duty is to be an NC, their head would probably explode because they're busy people doing very important things for people's careers. And we want that. And here's why it's so important though, is when we're going to say things like make sure they have the right sponsor, that needs to be somebody's primary duty, not something that they like might get to. That it's somebody's career. And we're talking about make sure they have the right sponsor because like the first 72 hours concept, which I agree is very important. That movie was horrific, but whatever. The idea of it is very important, but it's not going to be like everything can't be the top priority. So like you have to make that the top priority for someone. You can't make it the top priority for anyone when it's a collateral duty because I've got a primary duty. I've got a division of people I need to take care of. I've got a mission to do. I've got all the things I need to do to support that mission, professional and character development, like all the stuff that I like. That's never going to be the thing I care about most. And it should be the thing that someone is prioritizing at number one. It should be the thing that someone cares about most. Give me an NC2. Like, are those even real? Because they like convert. I think they are. But like, give me an NC2. Like, why don't I already have one of those? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, we have the racks for it. Like, shut up, Cobb. Like, we have the racks for it. I'm joking a little. So yeah, like stuff like that. That's never gonna. It's the same thing as the schools until you make it like mandatory, or in this case, until you make it mandatory in that it's somebody's primary duty, it's never gonna happen, man. Never, right? Never. And like I know NCCs on ships that are getting after it and like doing a lot, but then you got to scale that. Like how many junior NCs do they have? Like how many NCs are assigned like counselors, not recruiters, right, to an aircraft carrier? I bet you it's like 3 or 5 or something for like 5,000. Well, I mean, the Air Wing might have their own. I don't know. I bet you it's not enough if I had to guess. If there's any NCs out there like listening, hit me up. I'm curious. So yeah, making sure that it's like, this is another one of those, like, it's a pipe dream until you take meaningful action. And then it talks about like doing all the nice things that we're never going to do until it's somebody's primary duty. Let's see. And then it says, where does it say that? Okay, here we go. When they report, and during the entire onboarding and check-in process, make sure they have the necessary support to ensure a seamless transition, including their housing and pay. That's cute. Like, I know that's probably coming from the Reddit AMA that he did. And I love that there's a lot of things in these documents, for all my criticism, that I'm glad he's saying it, but like, that doesn't change anything until you take meaningful action and you're already a year into your tenure as MCPON and you haven't actually accomplished anything towards these goals. You're just now releasing these memos. Like, okay, who's the next MCPON? You know, like, it's not, you're not going to get it done. I don't know. I'm using historical trend analysis here, but like, I don't think you have time now. It's just how bureaucracies move. But like, the pay, like, who's gonna do that? This is all the same. Like, who's gonna do it? Like, PSD? What PSD? There's no one there. There's no one working there anymore. It barely exists. Everybody has all these horrific pay and administrative issues and like housing problems, like the fuel tank stuff and the mold in the barracks, and on it goes. Like, just go troll Reddit or any like Facebook pages or the Navy Times or whatever, and you're just gonna see that stuff over and over and over and over and over again. It's like, what? How is the sailor with the 10 million other things to do, and now you want him to be a collateral duty sponsor, monitor, coordinator, sort of, and then now you're just layering stuff on top of stuff on top of. It's like, you don't It's never gonna happen until you make it somebody's primary duty. And like, I remember Wes Koschhofer, when he was a fleet master chief, talking about how, what is it, like CNP office people? I think he was the fleet there before he retired. I'm assuming he retired. It was a while back. He's talking about like how everything's going to be this app, and we're developing all these computer programs, and we're going to merge things, and you're going to be able to do travel claims from your phone. And it's like, all right, that was like 6 years ago. Like, where is this stuff? And it's like, it's the capability exists. I mean, Jesus Christ, ChatGPT's doing people's homework. So it's like the capability exists, but for some reason we just can't figure out how to like cut a check to a smart kid to develop an app that actually works, or just man PSDs with civilians. Like, Jesus, until you make this stuff somebody, like, you can't put this on the chief on the submarine, because then what my move is, or a chief on a ship or a chief at an operational command or whatever, my move is to call those people or go up to my admin people who are going to laugh at me because no one's at PSD. It's like, okay, like, I'm going to try, but you have to make it somebody's job. And it's like, I go up to my YNs, because that's our admin, but we don't have PSs or anything on submarines. I go up to my YNs, and my YNs have a list this long because no one's answering the phone at PSD, and everything takes 5,000 years because we don't have enough people doing the thing, or we haven't figured out a process that's streamlined where we can use an app and offload some of these tasks to like a sailor just snapping a picture of some receipts and hitting submit. But it's like, you can't just say, get it done, figure it out. Results, not excuses. Like, okay, well, I mean, it's not an excuse. It's a reason. Like, I can't get it done because I'm not God. Like, you have to make it somebody's primary duty. There has to be somebody behind the curtain that, like, the whole life cycle of or whatever, like the flow chart of the thing getting done. It's like, there's got to be people at each one of the little blocks, and there's not. So you can't put this on chiefs. You can't. Because you putting it on the chief, what it should mean, and what it, in my like breakdown of this, it does mean is they tell me, like, I'm the first contact. They tell me they have a pay issue, and I bring it up to the yeoman, or I send them to PSD, or I whatever, tell them how to use the app that doesn't exist. But it's like, I can't solve that. I don't even have the level of knowledge to solve that for them, or the access to any of the computer programs or anything like that. So like, the only thing you're putting on me really is like getting the ball rolling, except the ball can't fucking roll anywhere because like there's no one to catch it. You know what I mean? Too many analogies. All right. The pay one I wanted to point out, and like housing too. It's just like, it's freaking like, yeah, you need to hire civilians as like housing advocates, or you need to just federalize it again and tell these civilian slumlords to go back to whatever the fuck they were doing before. All right. Yeah, I already talked about that. Oh, the command it mentions command indoc too. Like, I forget. So it says, get them to command indoctrination. Give them the opportunity to understand how the command does business. What command indoc? Like, who does that meaningfully? Like, I know Ariana she ran it at her command, and like, I don't know how good it was before she got there, but she did work. I mean, went to like DC to compete for like whole Shore Navy Sailor of the Year or whatever it is now. I know there's more of them now, so maybe it was just like Intel or something. I don't know. But like, she did work. And so it's like, I've never seen a command indoc, let alone like, a lot of times for submarines, you show up at like the squadron and they have an indoc thing, and then you get onto the boat and it's just like sponsor or guy from your division walks you around the submarine with a check-in sheet until you're halfway done, and then they disappear, and then you figure it out by asking randos in the POA. But like, what is command? Like, does that happen places? Like, let me know. But this is another one. Like, who's doing that? And like, the people I've seen do it are like at the squadron level are like transient division dudes that like are on limdo or got in trouble probably or something. I don't know. But it's like not the people that should be doing it, is my point. So like, what resources are there to do that in addition to, like, this would be another NC thing. Like, give me an NC2. Give me an NC2. But again, this is another one. It's like, I would love to, but I don't have 5 clones of myself. So no. All right. What's next? Okay, so bullet 3 gave me a little hope, and then I brought myself back down to earth. So it says, when chiefs invest in their sailors and value their well-being, it creates trust and confidence within the team. How many people have heard me say that recently or in the last, it's probably, am I in year 8? I might be in year 8. I'm old. So that line is the best thing. And there's good, like, lines in these documents. I don't not agree with the sentiment. I just don't agree with how he then elaborated on how, like, whose responsibility is what or what it means. Even though it's vague, he elaborated a little bit. Like, you get like 3 sentences per bullet. That's the best one, because that, like, I feel like that should have been number 1. That should have been in the original document and been like, this, like, when you care about your people, that's what that really means, investing in their well-being. Like, when you care, and they know by your actions, they feel that you care based on your actions, it creates trust and confidence within that team. That builds trust. They start to believe that you care about them, and then they trust you and the decisions that you make when you tell them to go do something, when you tell them this is how you professionally and characterly develop. That's not a word. They trust you, right? That's the best line of the whole thing. But then he said, however, is this scalable when laid at the feet of chiefs is what I wrote. And then how about a division LCPO on a carrier that has like 500 sailors, which is typical of like CS divisions. And I'm sure many others. It's being it says chiefs should be intimately familiar with their sailors. Chiefs should understand their sailors' goals and be able to guide them in improving their professional and personal standing, blah, blah, blah. How? If I'm the division LCPO of a division of 500, how am I going to be intimately familiar with all of those sailors without an NC2? See what I did there? Brought in that. All right. I can't. It's not real. That's not even, that would be a primary duty unto itself. And I probably still couldn't do it. Let 500 people, ever heard of Dunbar's number, which I've heard is like true, maybe untrue. I don't know. But like, I remember, like, on a submarine, I knew all 150 people by name ish. I mean, sometimes like 160, sometimes it got up to like 210 on the special projects boat when we had extras with us. I'm not at liberty to say. But like, and I pretty much knew everybody's name. Like, and I mean, granted, it was sewn to their freaking shirt, or well, Velcroed, I guess, on FRVs. But like, you know what I mean? But I visually recognized them and I knew who they were. But like, to say I'm intimately familiar with 210 people, you're out of your mind. Like, I know a lot of stuff, but like, God, I mean, to say I'm supposed to be intimately familiar with that many people is insane. Like, when I had a department even of 12, yeah, that's easy. I can do that. I can do 12 as like, in addition to all the other things I got to do. It's still hard. Like, there were nights where I mean, I'm staying late and having those conversations, but like, in my mind, that like, that's the stretching kind of beyond some of the norms of like normal working hours and like work-life balance and stuff. Like, there's times where you just got to like eat that. And that's the price of wearing a khaki belt to work. But you can't do it every day. And when you try to scale that up, I mean, Jesus, even a division of like 80, intimately familiar, really? Like, I wouldn't have time to do anything else. So it's like, it's just like, come on, man, come on. I don't understand how you can write that down, having done an entire naval career up to this point, and you're like serious about it. Unless like we're gonna make a ton more chiefs and we're gonna divide it up like when I was an A school instructor, class sizes were capped at 36 students. Like, if you're gonna cap division sizes at 36, and we're just gonna have like a S1, S1A, S1B, S1, you know what I mean, and have a chief for every division, all right, then we can do it. But you're not gonna do that. You're going to put a chief in charge of 500 people and be like, why aren't you intimately familiar? Why aren't all your CDBs done? You know what I mean? And it's like, meanwhile, this guy hasn't slept in a year and he's trying to, or gal, and is trying to like get maintenance done and like not explode or have a heart attack. It's like, dude, like, come on. Like, I've seen chiefs get craned off of submarines on whatever the stretchers are called, like I forget the name, like the hard boards, like strapped into it because they're having chest pains or heart attacks or whatever because they're stressed out and like all the only calories in their body are energy drinks and nicotine. And it's just like, and then this was like 10 years ago. So like, I don't understand how you write documents like this and have your feet firmly planted in reality. Like, some of the sentiments of the bullets are great. Then it just goes into fantasy land. This is not achievable unless, I mean, you would have to, the upheaval, and I'm not saying I'm not on board if they really wanted to like put on their like gauntlet and Thanos their way through this, you know what I mean? Like, just change stuff like on a large scale and start doing things to put the infrastructure in place to accomplish these things. I'm just not, you know, there's a chance, I guess, but like, come on. Like, I'll be the first one to throw rose petals at Honey's feet if he does all this stuff. Like, if he did all that, like did what was actually required to accomplish any of these things, even if it was like one of the like probably 9 bullet points on the 3 memos that he's going to put out. Like, if they put an NC-2 on a submarine, I will go to DC and throw rose petals at this man's feet. But it's not going to happen. Like, I don't see how any of this stuff is going to change in any meaningful way. And he's not going to be MCPON for the next 10 years. So he doesn't even have time to accomplish a lot of this stuff because he spent his first year jet setting around the Navy, getting to know people. Yeah, like, it's just, the whole thing is broken, man. So I put, you know, like, being intimately familiar with all their needs would be a full-time job in and of itself, which I already said. Never mind all the other responsibilities you've delineated in these documents, the mission, vision, guiding principles, and from the command, leadership, and mission demands. Like, it's just, none of this is achievable. And that's what kind of grosses me out about, like, how do you release these documents knowing that? Like, he has to know that none of this is achievable. And it's like just a cute look, I'm doing my job. Like, that's really what this was. Unless he's behind the scenes just smashing his way through DC and getting I don't know, man. He looks like he could smash some stuff, but like I would love nothing more than for that to be real. I don't know. I feel like you'd hear you like if he was flipping over tables and or even like slickly navigating DC in a way where a lot of change was coming. I feel like we'd be hearing about it. I know too many people to not, you know what I mean? Like, somebody would have tipped me off to some of this stuff. And it's like, I have heard some things that sound pseudo promising, but it's like a document or a proposal. It's like, everything's on paper still. It's like, there's no actual movement on any of this stuff. So until I see something rolled out, I'm just like, and like a coherent plan that actually sounds like it might work, or at least make a dent like ELD did, or is trying to, or is capable of. This stuff is hurting my heart. That's kind of it for that one. Again, I'll do the final one when it comes out. I'll check right now when I'm done recording just to make sure it hasn't already. But yeah, man, this stuff, I don't even know why they bother. You know what I mean? Hope's not a plan, and that's essentially what these documents are. It's like I plan to, my goal is, and it's like, dude, sailors have heard this stuff from so many different sources over and over again. I've spent 21 years listening to fleets and forces and MCPONs and CNOs and CNPs and whoever else flew into the area, telling us all these things that are going to change and make better, and you're going to have an app on your phone and it's going to do all the things like a magic wand. And it's just like, none of it ever comes to fruition. You're supposed to have a paperless Navy 20 years ago. Can't even get a printer to work. So like, come on, man. I mean, mapping a printer takes me 3 hours, or did. Thank God I'm retired and I can just do stuff at home with a Bluetooth printer now. But yeah, I don't understand the point. Like what I really am confused by, and I would love for somebody to explain this to me, Paul Kingsbury, I'm looking at you, bud, is how you can be in that position, like a Force Fleet MCPON position, and like really think that this is the move. And that's why I lean towards like, dude, you got to know, and you're just putting this out because you want to be like on the board of Raytheon when you retire. You know, like I don't understand how you can really think that this is the move, and or really think anyone's going to take any of that stuff seriously, like these memos and stuff. Like there's probably a dozen boot chiefs across the Navy that are just like, I gotta get this done. But like, other than that, it's like, that's not going to make a dent. That's not going to matter to anybody. And it's just going to make them lose their hair faster and get high blood pressure and, you know, get craned off a submarine or whatever. It's not doing any good, in my opinion. But it's like, I'm like my German Shepherd when I'm playing fetch with her. Like I move the ball around and she like reacts every single time. And it's like, maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the time. It's like, that's how I am with MCPONs. I'm just like, maybe this is the one. Maybe this is the one. I would love to see Tkorzik get in there. So if I have any sway over anyone that matters, Scotty Tkorzik for MCPON. All right. I'm going to make shirts. But yeah, that's really it. I'm just going to keep repeating myself if I go on. So yeah, if you have questions, comments, concerns, feedback, whatever, hit us up. Don't give up the ship podcast at gmail.com. You can Facebook message us, Don't Give Up the Ship Podcast, or you can DM us on Instagram, Reddit, or Discord at dgutspodcast. If you want to support us, you can go to dgutspodcast.com. There's a donate button in the upper right-hand corner of the website. Or you can go to dgutapparel.com. That's Don't Give Up the Ship Apparel. You get yourself some naval pride and heritage gear you'll actually wear in public. Or probably the best way, patreon.com/dgutspodcast. Pick one of the 5 tiers. Become a patron today. Helps a ton with paying all these bills and supporting just the platform, both the expansion and maintenance and everything. We got lots of bills. Just saying. Lots of bills. And if you can't afford to spend any money, you can just like, share, subscribe, review us on all the platforms for all the things for podcasts, social media, all that. You can tag your friends. You can share our posts. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can share the videos. All that helps with all the algorithms and just visibility and organic growth. So any of that would be dope. And just listening's cool too. Appreciate that. Statistics matter. Plus, like, it's just like the goal of the podcast is to help you. So if you're listening, presumably it's helping. But yeah, that's it. That's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and don't give up the ship. Hey, shout out to all our level 5 patrons, Victoria Livingood, William McIver, and Mark Galagos. To all our other patrons, we really appreciate your support. Helps to pay all the bills, expand the platform, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button, drop a comment down below on what you thought, and subscribe to the channel.